I do not know who needs to hear this, but we are well beyond the point of needing to trade these players away.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I am your host, Jess Belmosto, and thank you so much for joining me today. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Today, we are going to continue the conversation surrounding the Flames' 4 straight losses at home and how abysmal their play has been, on top of players that are underperforming and potentially overperforming or exceeding expectations, as well as wrapping up our show with the winners and losers of the week since it is Friday. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you're getting your podcasts and, of course, on YouTube as well. We are here for you 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and I could not be happier to be here to talk about this godforsaken hockey team because truly, what happened? They were playing fairly decent, I would say, up until this homestand. Now, it wasn't anything to write home about, but you kind of felt confident. It was kind of like, okay, they're hanging with some of the tougher teams. They're able to hold their own through 60 minutes of play. Granted, Jacob Markstrom was out, but my God, did they just get absolutely clobbered against one of the worst teams in the NHL last night against the Columbus Blue Jackets. 4 straight losses, 5-2. What do you mean? You allowed the Columbus Blue Jackets to score 5 goals on you in one game. It's so embarrassing to lose to a team like Chicago, Columbus, the Sharks, the Ducks. Like, it is so embarrassing. But when you get your butt handed to you, especially at home, come on. Can we have a little bit of self-respect, please? Why can they not find a way to get themselves up for the easy 2 points? They can't do it. They have now lost 4 straight against Chicago. They play Chicago tomorrow, so they'll make it 5. You might as well. Losing 4 out of the 5 games at home in this homestand so far, horrible. You were in a spot where you were, a fringe playoff team. The Blues came to town and it was kind of like, okay, this is a team that we're in a wild card position with. We're looking to kind of gain some ground, and they didn't. The backslide just continued. It was the loss against Toronto. Okay, sure, you're going to lose to a good team more than likely, especially a team that has as strong of an offense as Toronto. And then it just like dominoes. You lost to St. Louis. You lost to the Oilers. Hello, last Saturday was Hockey Night in Canada, Battle of Alberta, and the Flames, they tried so hard during that game, but ultimately their silly little mistakes cost them the game. And then you go on to lose to St. Louis, and then you lose to Columbus. And this team cannot get themselves get out of their own way. And this has been a common theme for the Flames in the 4 years that I have covered them. 4 calendar years of not being able to get out of your own way. One season you got incredibly lucky and you got the most out of all of your players with a Daryl Sutter a masterclass. But this is so beyond unacceptable. you can absolutely tell that the players have had enough, and I do not blame them. That loss to Columbus just solidified and cemented themselves an early golf reservation. So I hope that everyone is ready come April. You're not going to be getting your postseason run together. You're not going to be creating your little jackets and bedazzled wives and girlfriends jackets for your kids either. You're going to be packing up and heading back to Sweden, or I feel like most of this team is from Sweden, so you're going back home. You're going back home. This team is not a playoff team. They kind of had us fooled there for a little bit, but these last few games have really proven why the Flames need a significant overhaul. And I know people are saying, well, I think it's just because there's no way this team does a rebuild and like it's really not as bad as it looks. Except it is, because this isn't every team goes through those lulls through a season, of course. But for the Flames, there are certainly more lows than there are even like plateaus. And that's bad. They lost 6 straight at the start of the year. They could string 2 or 3 wins together for some time. They'd lose 3, 4 in a row, and now we're back to losing 4 in a row. And that's not a competitive team. You don't do that. You might drop 1 or 2, okay, sure, but you are not consistently going out and losing 4 straight. 4. Especially when it's to teams as horrendous as Columbus. Do you know what's going to happen on Saturday when the Blackhawks come to town? And everyone's like, people are so devoid of emotion for this team at this point, and I cannot blame them. I would not spend $1 to get into the Saddle Dome tomorrow night because number 1, Connor Bedard's not playing. Number 2, there's nothing to watch for. There's nothing fun to watch for. You don't have this optimism of going and watching a good team. You're watching 2 mediocre teams, if not worse, go at it on a Saturday night. Stay home and stay warm and put on a good movie instead. Do yourself a favor. And coming up next, we're going to talk about how this has boiled over into the players and what is going on and why Elias Lindholm is still asking for $9 million when he is performing at the rate that he is performing. And before we do that, though, we are, like I said, going to take a quick break. And your first sponsor of the day is from our friends at Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to the data. According to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work and use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. I like Indeed because it really is that one-stop shop for finding your perfect candidates, getting that interview scheduled, and communicating. There's no jumping between messaging inboxes and sending this link. Oh, did I send this link? No, it is all in one spot. And leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly getting better and learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. And listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your job more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. And of course, we are going to talk about one of my favorite apps on my phone and honestly, one of my most frequently used apps. I'm going to be entirely honest, and that would be FanDuel. Right now, the regular season has wrapped up for the NFL, but there is still time to get in on the playoff action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is super easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same game parlays. Find ways to bet in the new Explore tab and make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays and more. So visit fanduel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. Thanks everyone for tuning in and making Locked On Flames part of your day. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you're getting your podcasts and on YouTube as well. One of the most infuriating storylines this season, up to this point, has been Elias Lindholm. And I respect Elias Lindholm. It seems like a really nice guy, good hockey player, good dad. I'm not going to sit here and bash him, but I think it is absolutely bananas that this man was offered $9 million by the Flames over the summer when he should have been traded. You needed to maximize your return on Elias Lindholm, and now you're probably just going to get a prospect and maybe a third-round draft pick. This has been horrendous. He has scored 1 goal in his last 23 games. That is over a quarter of the season. Why on earth do you think, as an agent, you can ask teams for $9 million? I get it. You're watching Jonathan Huberdeau underperform. But at least Huberdeau, he has the history and the resume to justify that contract and that extension at that time. Elias Lindholm had one 42-goal season thanks to Matthew Tkachuk and Johnny Gaudreau, and here we are now. And it is ugly. It's ugly. It's tough to watch. And then you have Jonathan Huberdeau, who has not had a good season, who has been bad. I'll come straight out and say it. He has been playing poorly and has looked bad. And you can see how frustrated he is. You have seen it through the entire season, whether he's beating himself up on the bench, missing shots, whiffing like Lucy taking the football away from Charlie Brown, or like last night when he decides to board someone. When has Huberdeau ever, ever done something like that? And not even to like just board them. That's bad enough, obviously. Like, don't do that. It's a nice crime for a reason. But this kid gets up and he is all bloody. The- I get it, it's hockey, that happens. But that is something I would expect, quote unquote, expect from an AJ Greer, because he is a tougher physical player. Not that in like that can happen when you're Huberdeau did not do that. I'm not saying it was intentional, but it was reckless. And he was not given any supplemental discipline, which to me is a joke. I guess they thought 5 in a game was enough. This is what is so infuriating about hockey at times, because there is no consistency. And when you have players acting like that, they don't see a repercussion. So they're more likely to continue to do that. And it doesn't even have to be that same player. It can be a player on the same team. It can be an entirely different team. But we have seen that time and time again. Chris Tanev and Mackenzie Weegar are the only 2 defenders that I feel comfortable putting out on the ice. If they could play 60 minutes, I'd ice them for 60 minutes. Noah Hanifin has been an absolute liability all season. Oliver Shillington, you are not included in this. You are beyond excluded because this Noah Hanifin, absolutely bad. Rasmus Anderson has been off all season. I don't know what it is. From the minute the season started, he didn't have confidence in his shot. He did not appear to be fully engaged. And there are some nights where I don't know if he knows if he's coming or going. And the third pairing, like in general, that's kind of been like rotating all season. And since the Zadorov trade, and that's fine. Like it's gonna happen. I don't care. They're not out there necessarily eating a good chunk of time, and they're on the ice the least. So I don't care. I just ask that they be productive. And I should not open my NHL app and look at the score sheet and constantly just see Mackenzie Weegar and Connor Zary scoring. There are 20 something other players on this team. Can they start acting like it? The audacity to call Elias Lindholm a 1C. Where is this? And I understand he had that good season 2 years ago, but we are past that. No one on this team is performing like that. I mean, heck, you look at Gaudreau in Columbus and you look at Tkachuk in Florida. Granted, Tkachuk is still a point per game player, but he's not. I mean, I'm not entirely watching enough Matthew Tkachuk, but like he's not the Matthew Tkachuk we saw in Calgary, and maybe that's a good thing. It's infuriating because this team is just all lip service. We want to be better. Losing like this is unacceptable. We're fighting for a playoff spot. We want to win. We want to be better. We have got to be better. Actions speak louder than words. That is a tale as old as time. So why don't we start living up to the standards that we set? There is absolutely zero reason to re-sign any of the pending free agents. And I am so disappointed in this team and how this season has gone. I thought that it was going to be better than last year. The only thing that is keeping them from being a bad of a struggle bus as last year is that Jacob Markstrom is keeping his head above water. That's it. They've been pretty lucky when it comes to injuries. Granted, AJ Greer did just we don't know if he is going to need ankle surgery. I'm not a doctor, but based on the way he went into those boards, he's going to need a whole new foot. That did not look good. And I hope that he is okay, and hopefully we get an update over this weekend. But Kevin Rooney and Jacob Pelletier coming back from surgery. They're playing with the Wranglers this weekend. The season's cooked. The season's done. This team is not making the playoffs. So if you want to just stick around for the trade deadline, I don't blame you. I get it. And it's hard to look at this season with any sort of positivity because they did not even meet the bare minimum expectation and probably will not based on their performance at this point. But coming up next, we are going to wrap up the show with winners and losers of the week because it is Friday and there is still so much to talk about when it comes to the Flames. But before we do that, we are going to take a quick break here, and I want to tell you all about eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. That's what brings home the winning trophy and is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for you to choose from to keep your ride or die alive, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for at eBay Motors, and it's guaranteed to fit with eBay's Guaranteed Fit. Because every time you purchase with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guarantee Fit only available for U.S. customers. Thanks everyone for tuning in to today's episode of Locked On Flames. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at Jess Belmosto. Picking winners and losers of the week this week was incredibly easy. And normally I do go outside of the Flames organization because there's a lot of good things to talk about. There's a lot of good stuff going on in the world, in hockey, in sports in general, and there's also typically a lot of bad. Whether it's a star having a bad performance or a team that's just eliminating themselves from the playoffs already, or sports fans tracking private jets. like there's always something, and the Flames did not disappoint in the lack of content for that this week. And my winner of the week, we're going to start off go big or go home, and that is Oliver Kylington. This was such an exciting week for him. He does his little conditioning stint with the Wranglers and gets reacclimated with professional hockey and the routine and everything like that, and then has a few days off where he's still technically on LTIR, but he's skating with the team. He's practicing. And then Thursday, he comes off LTIR and slots back into the lineup. Unfortunately, the Flames did lose. But this is so exciting because Oliver Kylington is someone that was such an impactful and significant player during the 2021-2022 season. Oliver Kylington and Chris Tanev go together like peanut butter and jelly. I am so worried what this team will become when both of them are no longer on this team. Could that be Chris Tanev leaving in free agency or getting traded? Probably. And Oliver Kylington is on an expiring contract, but I would assume they're going to try to extend him. All things, based on what we're seeing and how things are trending. But it's great to see, especially everyone in the locker room welcoming him back and kind of making him feel right at home, and him saying, like, I never thought I'd be here again. I didn't think I'd be here again, but I did it. That takes a lot. So good. I'm very happy. But it would not be winners and losers of the week without the losers. And that would be the Calgary Flames for crapping all over themselves in 4 straight games. Talked about it earlier in the show, and I am still astonished at anyone's performance. I cannot believe that Connor Zary has had the season he has had this season. And that's not doubting his ability. No one really expected him to do an extended run with the team, basically to be with the team the whole season. And here he is, basically putting up a point per night and playing out of his mind. That him, Kadri, and Pospisil, when they were playing together, it was great. Now, granted, Pospisil is injured and out for a little bit, but he's still scoring. He is still scoring, and it is so fun to watch. But every other aspect of this team is just killing me. You haven't moved anyone yet because you're playing the waiting game, and where has that gotten us, Craig Conroy? Where has that gotten us? Elias Lindholm, still a Flame, underperforming unbelievably. You have Dan Vladar, who is probably just gonna end up walking in free agency. No one's paying to take a Dan Vladar. You have Noah Hanifin, who I would have been fine extending at the start of this homestand. I was a little iffy on it at the start of the homestand, but I could justify it. Now, send that boy back to the East Coast, because what is going on with his defensive abilities or lack thereof? And then you have Chris Tanev, who was fuming in the post-game press conference on Thursday night, saying it was unacceptable to play like that. That loss was unacceptable. We're fighting for a playoff spot. Chris Tanev deserves so much better at this point. It's not even funny. I am so frustrated for the players on this team that show up every day and play like they want to be here, like they want to make a playoff run. Even if it's not going to be a deep playoff run, it is something. And unfortunately, that's just not happening and has not been happening. So something's got to give. Something has to change. Otherwise, this is going to be a very, very long few years for the Calgary Flames. And that will wrap it up on today's episode of Locked On Flames. Thank you all for tuning in and hanging out with me today and making Locked On Flames part of your day. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you're getting your podcasts, and of course on YouTube as well. You can follow me on X at Jess Belmosto. You can follow the show at LO_FlamesPod. And I look forward to talking to y'all on Monday when we recap this weekend and any potential trades that happen, because something, like I said, something's got to give.